Let's go. Welcome back to another episode of the MVP Fantasy Football and Sports Podcast. My name is Tyler Joneson, and with me as always is Ryan Elke. We have a great episode in store for you today. We're doing a live mock draft, me and Ryan. We're going to actually do something different from what I've seen on other podcasts, other stations. We're actually going to go through every single pick from 1 to 212. We're going to go through both rounds, 1 and 2, manually. And then we're going to auto draft after that and just draft our own teams. We're going to be drafting from the 3, and we're going to be drafting from the 9 in a 12-team PPR league. And then after that, I took a bunch of questions off of the Sleeper app, which I will then respond to the people that we have answered those questions. And that's going to be the second part of our show. We just want to get out there and answer questions because this is the most important time of the year. This is the biggest week, and coming up on Saturday being the biggest day for fantasy drafts, and then going into next week, the second biggest week, and Saturday probably being the second biggest day for fantasy drafts. We just want to get you guys this information. We're going to continue to answer questions this week, going into next week with 2 days, 2 shows a week, and then we're going to be doing the live stream for our draft on Saturday. It's an in-person draft. We're going to set up a camera, and I'm just going to follow along, just like how we're doing it here on Sleeper. As people are getting picked, we are going to be live streaming the audience that is picking, and then we're going to be live streaming the picks as they're going up. So you guys can follow along, see how crazy some of our people are in our league, and just kind of the fun emotions that come with a live draft. And I 100% love live drafts, and I just recommend it to everybody. I mean, Ryan, we're doing it at Ryan's house. Just tell us the setup and how much fun it's been since we've been doing live drafts.
This is going to be our third year doing it, and I will never go back. Basically, what it comes down to, if you can't make the draft, you're being replaced. It's going to be done in person every year. It's just the experience is the best. It's way better than online live drafting or live online drafting. I'd rather do it in person every time.
Yeah.
For one, you're with your league mates. You can run your mouth, talk your smack. If you won it last year, put the title in other people's faces, extra motivation, just have fun with it. If you're online, all you can do is type in the chat and kind of just BS. So it's kind of boring. And the draft goes a little bit longer live in person. And also the benefit of it is, if your league allows it, which I don't see why they wouldn't, is you have the capability of trading draft picks in person and talking through trades and helping your team. Like if there's a guy on the board that you want, you can trade up to get him.
Yeah, and that's going to be perfect, and it's going to lead right into one of the questions that we have later on after the mock draft. So stay tuned for the questions. We're going to go over trades with draft picks. We're going to go over running back situations. We're going to go through the first round for a lot of questions on where your draft position is. We're going to help you on what you should do during that draft position spot, the best strategies. I mean, me and Ryan have been doing mock drafts. We're hundreds of mock drafts in by now, doing them at work, doing them at home here. So we have a good understanding of the ADP for the general public. And just getting back to the live drafts, it is so much fun. Ever since we've been doing it, just getting people together, drinking some beers, and eating some good food. I don't know. I just would never do it any other way. If you can't, or if for some reason there's not a lot of people, online is definitely fine. You have a ton of fun drafting. Drafting is the best part of fantasy football. And just look forward to it coming up this next couple of weeks. And ours coming up Saturday. It's just going to be a great time. So we're going to jump right into it. We're going to get into the mock draft, the final mock draft before we have our draft on Saturday. And we're going to go through the first couple of rounds, picking every spot, who we think we would want. Me and Ryan are going to talk it over on who we would want for every single position, every single pick until we get to that end of the second round. And then it's kind of, I would say the mid-second round is where it kind of gets into a hard right turn to south of players, and it's hard to rank them after that point. So we'll get there. We'll start drafting from our positions, and then we'll draft the rest of our team, and then we're going to move on to all the questions. So it should be a pretty good length show. We have a lot of questions, and we have a whole mock draft to do. So stick around and listen up to everything we have to say. So Ryan, if you want to take it over, you're leading our mock draft here. The first pick overall, I think we said it last week. Are you gonna go with Saquon? And actually, breaking news before we get into it, Panthers QB Cam Newton is in the locker room after suffering a foot injury. He's done for the night. What do you think about that, Ryan? I mean, we didn't get to see it. It could have been just something super minor where he just wobbles off the field and they're like, let's just take it easy. I don't want you to get hurt. Or it could be something else. I don't know.
I mean, it could go either way, but just hearing that he's in the locker room with a foot injury, locker room is the main thing. Like, that's the important piece of that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. I hope he's all right. Hopefully nothing's broke, sprained, whatever. I hope it's just, he got stepped on. Like I said, we didn't see it, so we're just speculating here. Maybe he got stepped on or twisted ankle. Yeah. I don't know. Even though it says foot, that's the best you can hope for right now. But the odds are it's probably not a good thing.
I mean, if he's in the locker room and they're just checking it out, I guess we'll see. They're probably going to give another update because that's kind of something where people are like, oh, geez, Cam Newton, that was a lot of offense that a lot of people are going for those wide receivers and CMC. So we'll keep an eye on it, and we're going to jump right back into the mock draft then.
I wanted to talk about one more thing. And
yeah, go ahead.
I said I wasn't going to, but it just got updated, and it is happening. The Raiders and Packers preseason game, they're playing on an 80-yard football field here. That's disgusting. Seriously. Rodgers was going to play this game. He's not playing. The Packers aren't playing any of their starters. It's pretty sad because this is supposed to be a dress rehearsal, and they should have been in there getting some reps, but unfortunately they couldn't risk it. And the goalposts weren't even attended to, dude. There's still holes in the ground. They didn't even cover them up. So before the game, that was a huge concern. Like, there's holes in the end zone where the goalposts were, because in Canada they have them in the middle of the end zone, like 3 yards in. So how did they not get this prepared? This is horrible. Like, I know this has nothing to do with fantasy football, but it's football related. And this is an absolute disgrace.
You have guys making millions of dollars, and to have a field like that just looks like crap. I mean, you were talking about the soccer field that last year.
Yeah, in Mexico last year. Was it last year or the year before? I think it was. It was that, I'm pretty sure it was the Kansas City Rams game. It was supposed to be played in Mexico. The one where they scored, it was like 55-52.
And they were showing all those pictures?
Yeah, man. They had a soccer game the day before, 2 days before, and they destroyed the field. And then they're just like, oh, well, we can't play here because it's destroyed. Like, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Like, another country is hosting the NFL, which the NFL they do want to expand. They're looking over in the UK, and then these countries are getting the chance to host the NFL, which is a booming business and potential chance to get a team or whatever. And this is what happens. I just think it's kind of a disgrace, in my opinion. It's pretty, there's no excuse for it.
Yeah. And it shows the lack of respect or lack of understanding of what the NFL is when they're coming in. And you think also the NFL would have some standards when it comes to talking to these people. I mean, it's our team. It's the Green Bay Packers going over there. So we can be worried about our players on that field. You don't want to see anyone get injured. Anyone from any team even get injured on such a preseason 3 low budget field, 80 yards. I mean, that is just ridiculous. So
I feel bad for them, and the fault does go on the NFL as well. I mean, you got to be there and have this prepared as well. It's kind of like a 50-50 fault here, but whatever. I mean, it's not fantasy news. Let's move on. We're just wasting our time on that, but it's just kind of ridiculous.
Okay, so on the mock draft then, we're going to go through the first 2 rounds set up. We're going to go through who we would take if it got to us at each position. And this is kind of our rankings for the first 2 rounds. And then after that, we're just going to go into the mock draft on who we are drafting at our positions 3 and 9 for a 12-person PPR. I also like to note that we're pretty big on wide receivers. Our league is a 3 wide receiver, but this also can be used at a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, because having those wide receivers in your 2 and your flex as solid receivers and then getting that running back later, you'll kind of catch on. We'll talk about it. So our first pick here.
There's some wild picks though, Tyler. You guys are going to find out. These are pretty wild, but they're literally what we would do in this situation.
Yeah, and we've been doing this a long time. And this is like Ryan Stratton. And it kind of worked out in his favor for being at the 9, kind of his strategy. Years. So we're gonna look at it, and this is thinking about Zeke possibly holding out. This is Melvin.
Yeah, basically
Gordon
it's drafting
out
today. So
Yeah.
if your draft is today or this weekend, this is kind of the comparison right here. So go ahead, Tyler. First pick was who?
I mean, we both agreed on it, Saquon Barkley. And just going with a safe pick, I don't think you could go wrong with any of them. For me, on my rankings, I'm going to have Kamara ahead of Barkley. And I might even have CMC ahead of him. But it doesn't hurt no matter who you go with. And if Zeke had a contract today, I know that me and Ryan talked about it. We would shift Zeke up to the 1 spot. Just the amount of volume that Zeke gets is deserving of the 101. So
yeah, the 70+ catches. We talked about this. I'm pretty sure I talked about this last podcast with Ezekiel Elliott. So he only had 6 touchdowns last year. That's going up for sure if he's playing. He had 75 receptions. I mean, that could go down a little bit, but I think he stays around that area. And that amount of receptions, just plus the positive regression on touchdowns, he's the number 1.
Yeah, and then moving on to the number 2, Alvin Kamara. And this is kind of a nod to, I believe Kamara could be the 101, and you also see him dropping to the 3 and 4. Just kind of mix and match, but for me, Kamara is ahead of CMC, and now it's thinking about like a possible Cam foot. If that turns into something, it could eat into CMC. So Kamara, I guess there's nothing much to say. He's just a huge passing threat. I mean, he's getting the bulk of the rushes. Latavius Murray is going to eat into a little bit of both, but not too much. I don't see Latavius Murray being as involved as Ingram was. So
I was just going to say that, Tyler. I know, well, Latavius Murray's your guy. You have Henry ranked behind him, and for you to say that's kind of crazy, but it's just, I don't think he gets the Ingram as much of the work as Ingram got last year, so that makes Kamara even more valuable.
Yeah.
But then again, Kamara is a guy where you can't make him the bell cow. So the Saints are doing it right. He's just very, very efficient.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where he gets his positivity from, is the way that they utilize him. I mean, he's in New Orleans. They're going to find a way. So
run game, pass game, and red zone. So that's all you need. You don't need to play every snap. As long as you get those, you're good.
Exactly. So going on to the 103, then we have Christian McCaffrey, CMC. It is a no-brainer. He was the number 1 running back last year, and going into this year, he has that same role. He's put on a little bit more muscle. He's trying to take on more of the load when it comes to taking hits and rushing the ball. But, I mean, the pass game's still there. Half point, full point. You have to have CMC up in your top 4 because he's going to, just like Kamara, he's going to give you that high floor due to the passing game. I mean, if you got a running back that's getting close to 10 targets a game, it's a no-brainer.
Oh, for sure. And the thing is, like, even if, so you mentioned Cam Newton's foot. So let's say he is hurt. You saw last year what McCaffrey did with the backup quarterback. He was the focus. How long would he last doing all that? I don't know. Obviously, the reports coming out saying that he's going to not be on the field as much. That's honestly a good thing. Like, he's still going to be used as much as he did last year, but he's just not going to be on the field when they're not directly using him.
Yeah, and you don't want him to get burned out. So that's going to shift us to our next, the 4 spot. This is where I have in our Saturday draft, and we're going to go with our first wide receiver. Since Zeke is out, we are shifting over to receivers, and we have DeAndre Hopkins, kind of my choice. I know Ryan has Adams, so we'll kind of just hit them both. We have
yeah, but I'm fine with it though, Tyler. I really am. It's Adams, Hopkins, flip-flop. Doesn't matter. Just, if you want a receiver there, it's one of them. You're fine.
And listen to our last podcast. It kind of gets into why we like one or the other and both. So we have Hopkins at the 4, Adams at the 5, and it's actually surprising. We're pushing Zeke back even further. We're able to draft Julio Jones at the 6th overall pick. I mean, we have huge expectations for Julio this year. It's similar to every other year, but I think this year, with the amount of games that they're playing under the domes, and then also just the offense, you know that Matt Ryan is getting older. Julio's going in with the contract. I mean, I see it as a great year for Julio, and I think he could even be better than Hopkins and be the number 1 wide receiver this year.
Definitely could be, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. This guy had 113 receptions, 1,677 yards last year, and his 8 touchdowns. I'm pretty damn sure that most of them came in the second half of the year.
I think it was
so they started finding ways. Yeah, they started finding ways to get him the ball. So you can take 113 catches, 1,600 yards, and 8 touchdowns. That 8 touchdowns is going to go up this year. He's getting at least 12. So just do the math on that. He'd definitely be the number 1 receiver because he only finished 11 points behind Tyreek Hill for the number 1 spot in our PPR league.
That's crazy. You're getting the most yards. He's almost a lock to have the most yards in the season. He's almost a lock to be at the top for targets. And then if he gets more of that touchdown consistency, let's say like at the end of the last year's season, and he gets pushed up into that 10 to 12 touchdowns, I mean, you're looking at the number 1 wide receiver. So I'm very happy to take him there, and I am not looking back when it comes to Julio Jones. So that'll move us on to our number 7 pick at the 107, Ezekiel Elliott. And it's kind of Ryan's pushed him up a little bit here. I think I would still draft him a little bit further back, but on our consensus, Zeke, Ryan, and somewhat me don't have much concerns when it comes to him playing. Ryan, if you want to touch on that a little bit.
I mean, the news came out that he got offered the second highest paid running back money in the league, and
that's good news to me. I know he wants to be the number 1 paid, but it sounds like they're closer to an agreement. And if your draft is this weekend, obviously still not signed, but it's trending in the right direction. And I think the Cowboys realized that, yes, they probably do need this guy. And getting him at the 107 when he would be the 101, it's a good enough, it's the perfect time to do so.
Yeah, and the thing too is I think that if you are later in the first and Zeke is dropping, you're going to get a huge discount because of the people that are scared of the Le'Veon Bell situation of last year. And you have to remember that Bell, his contract is a lot different from Zeke's contract this year. Zeke is going to miss out on a lot more money, and he's sitting out, which could potentially hurt him a lot worse than it would have hurt Bell, or it did hurt Bell. So Zeke, to me, he does need to show up, and if he's missing games, it's going to hurt his contract tremendously and him as a player. So I see him playing as well, but for me, I would let him drop to the end of the first, and
still
someone down there is going to be happy. Someone's going to be very happy if he ends up playing and he's the R101, and you got him at the 10-11. So moving on then, get back into our wide receivers. We got Michael Thomas at the 108, and then we have Odell Beckham at the 109. So you got a couple of...
this is before David Johnson, remember?
Yes, so this is all before David Johnson.
Michael Thomas and Odell over David Johnson. I know it's preseason, but I was watching that game, and David Johnson just doesn't look like David Johnson. Yeah, I get it. It's preseason. That's not their offense. But he had no burst.
No.
He's still running straight up the middle. He's not really cutting. He's just running into the offensive line and defense that's boggled him up. And I just don't like that. And just seeing that right there is kind of worrisome. I'd rather take the guaranteed Michael Thomas ahead of him, and my favorite receiver in the league that has number 1 overall wide receiver potential every year. And this year with Baker Mayfield is Odell. And I just feel I would take that over David Johnson.
Yeah, and David Johnson, for me, I actually might push him back further. We were talking about it because of that preseason. You can't think too much into it, but on the other hand, we did see just a full season of David Johnson last year, and it was not that great. You got a lot of games where it was just a normal running back running behind a poor offensive line, couldn't get anything going, and also Kyler Murray, he was getting back down to ground zero when it comes to rookie quarterbacks. I mean, his preseason 1 was good, and then 2 was almost an exact opposite. So
I like the showing of Kyler Murray right there because it's going to help me draft him later. I still want him.
Yeah, it's going to push him back down to where he should be getting drafted.
Yeah, I agree.
And then it also helps out with David Johnson. Actually, I don't know. A lot of people are drafting David Johnson still early after that preseason game.
In the top 5.
And you're drafting him almost at his peak. I feel like that's as best as he's going to do. You're drafting him off of his 2016 season where he pretty much went off. And I don't know. So David Johnson is at our 110, and we'll keep him there for now, depending on our rankings where we have him. So moving on to the 11 and 12 to end out the first round, we got Juju Smith-Schuster, and then we have Tyreek Hill, the number 1 wide receiver from last year. So we're putting Juju in front of Tyreek because I think Juju has a huge opportunity in front of him right now. It does show some risk being the number 1 now compared to having Antonio Brown across from him. And Tyreek Hill, he gets a lot of his fantasy points off those long bombs. He's actually been pretty consistent doing it with being the least amount targeted and least amount receptions between all these guys. So what do you think of these two?
Juju had 4 less targets than Julio, and Julio finished number 1 in targets. So, and that's last year with Brown. I just feel everyone's freaking out. Brown's not there. Juju, oh, he's going to get the number 1 corners and this and that. No, they're going to mix this guy around. Kind of like what the Saints do with Michael Thomas. He's going to be used in the slot. He's going to be outside. He's going to be all over the place. Now, is he going to match that 166, 111 catches? I don't know, but I know for sure his touchdowns are going to go up from 7. So that's going to help him. 7, I think he reaches the 10, double digits this year.
Okay. And I could see it too. I mean, there's a lot open.
And he's just a safer pick than Hill, though, Tyler. Like, that's the thing. We were debating Hill or Juju, and the more we're talking about it here, it's Juju over Hill all day.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd be happy to have Hill on my team, but then you got those big play games. But I mean, you're also worried with those Cooper type games. Does he drop down and be inconsistent again? I mean, last year was kind of a crazy year. Usually players of that amount of targets do not end up being consistent. They end up having a few
go up and down, and he wasn't consistent though. That's the thing. Hill wasn't. He just had 3 huge games, or I think it was 30 plus, and that's gonna sway the numbers. He also had a handful of games under 10.
Yeah,
but those games over 30 and the one that was in the 40s, that helps. That helps big time. And he's not a huge receiver that's going to get targeted a massive amount.
Yeah, and also, I mean, he scored twice as many touchdowns as he did the 2 previous years. Touchdowns were a big thing for Tyreek Hill. So I have a feeling he regresses in touchdowns as Juju goes up in touchdowns.
Sounds like we're talking bad about Tyreek Hill, but we have him at the end of the first round in 12-man draft, like over Nick Chubb, Le'Veon Bell, these running backs.
Yep.
So we're not talking – it's just that's the breakdown on him right here at this pick, why we picked Juju over him. He's still a very good receiver on the most prolific offense in the league as the number 1 target. Maybe number 2, but still. He's the number 1 receiver there.
And looking back at our first round for everyone, just to give them a full picture, we have 5 running backs, which is Saquon, Kamara, McCaffrey, and then Zeke and David Johnson kind of at the back end of the first. And then we have 7 wide receivers for this 12 team. And that's Hopkins, Adams, Jones, Thomas, Beckham, Smith-Schuster, and Hill. And then we're going to move into our second round where all of a sudden the running backs, the first round running backs should fall to the second round. So we got Nick Chubb. He's been average draft position in the end of the first. We're pushing him to our beginning of second. So you got Nick Chubb, Mike Evans, and Le'Veon Bell. And Le'Veon Bell getting pushed down to the early second as well. We're going to talk about kind of these running backs first. So we got Nick Chubb. I think I like him more than Le'Veon because I think that his offense is going to be better. And you want to pick the better offense when it comes to a running back.
Well, you got Adam Gase as the head coach over in New York. Yeah, New York looks good. Sam Darnold looks good. But Le'Veon Bell, remember all those rumors like a month ago that they wanted to trade Le'Veon Bell? You remember that?
Yeah, he didn't even want him.
Yeah, Le'Veon Bell he's not. I don't think he's even going to be used as a full bell cow. I think and they have a very, very tough schedule for running backs in the first half of the year. That's another thing. Like Le'Veon Bell is just not on my draft radar. I'm not going to take him, and I'm not going to have any shares of this guy. And he could produce decently, but again, this is another guy I feel that he's at peak value with the situation that he's in.
Yeah, and I mean, he's falling to people in the first round, and you look at him, and it's like, you need to back off. Even in the second round, when he comes around the corner, there's more upside running backs that I would rather pick than Le'Veon Bell. He's getting this draft position because of his name. And you got to remember, he didn't play at all last year.
Name value, baby. Name value. You hit it right on the head.
Yeah, and that's really the key thing is when you get to these normal drafts, people that aren't listening to like me and Ryan or anybody that's out there that's a fantasy pro, Le'Veon Bell is just way overdrafted right now, and I love seeing people take him because then it means that more people are dropping to me, like Mike Evans, Adam Thielen. So let's get to Mike Evans. He's up right behind Tyreek Hill and right before Adam Thielen in our wide receivers on here, and I really like him. I don't think that injury scares us too much. It was more of just a tweak.
It's worrisome, Tyler, but just the offense. They have no running backs. What are they going to do? They have to throw the ball. Godwin, Evans, and Howard are going to be the biggest beneficiaries of that. And I think all three can definitely – I think both receivers can finish as a wide receiver one. Not likely, but it can also support an elite tight end in O.J. Howard. So it's all possible.
Yeah, and it all comes down to targets. They're all going to get targeted. I mean, you have a huge empty space when it comes to targets, losing Jackson and losing
Humphreys.
So, and Humphreys was solid. You got to remember that. And the way that they're going to use Mike Evans, it's probably going to be similar to the way they've always used him. But then you kind of look.
He just needs to be more efficient. That's all it is. Last year, if he was more efficient, he probably would have been a top 3 receiver because he had 1,500 yards. It was just he only had 80-some catches and a whole bunch of targets. So his efficiency was not that good.
Yeah, and Chris Godwin's going to be a huge beneficiary also. I think that.
Oh, for sure.
I think that where he's being drafted, Chris Godwin, you're getting him at a discount to what he's going to produce. So
I think this round 3 right here, when we actually start this draft here and the computers start picking, Godwin should be in there.
Oh yeah, he's going to be close to the top when it comes to, and we'll get to that point. So then we're going to move after Le'Veon Bell at the 204. We have Adam Thielen. 205.
Wild pick here, wild pick. And when we made this pick, me and Tyler both, if we were next to each other, I know we would just looked at each other like, what the hell are we doing? But it's the honest, literally just going back and looking at it, this is what I would have done again. Call me crazy. Adam Thielen, I mean, he showed what he could do last year in that first half of the year. He's done it. It's just, and he's not going to be as bad as the second half. I think it's going to even out, and he'll be a top 12 receiver for sure. And yeah. We picked him ahead of James Conner, Dalvin Cook, Antonio Brown, and even Travis Kelce. So at this point, pairing Odell with Adam Thielen, I would do it again.
Yeah, and I mean, even Adam Thielen over all those running backs, I like the consistency. I know that he kind of burned a lot of people, and they forgot about his first half of his season.
He burned me last year. I traded T.Y., Aaron Rodgers, and something else for Thielen at the deadline. And I was better off keeping T.Y., unfortunately. And it kind of screwed me. I got 4th place in that league, and I was destined to win that one. I had a great team.
And like we were saying, Adam Thielen, like you burned Ryan, people are going to let him fall in the draft. I think he's going at a discount as well. It was just last year when people were drafting Diggs ahead of Thielen. So Thielen got pushed up past Diggs finally this season, and I would be happy taking him before these running backs as well.
Another thing on Thielen, though, Tyler, is Keenan Allen would have been my pick if he wasn't banged up already. This guy's got a hurt ankle, a bum knee already, and we haven't even started the year. We have not started the season yet. So that already is so worrisome. I mean, Amari Cooper, another guy I would have picked over Thielen if he was healthy, but he's got that plantar fasciitis injury, and that could affect him for weeks. It could affect him the whole year. I think they're downplaying that injury a little bit, and that's worrisome. It's just it's Keenan Allen. I don't know where to target him. Amari Cooper, I feel like he's almost off my board right now. I'd rather go Michael Gallup late.
Yeah, no, I agree. And that's a good sleeper. Gallup has been mentioned on different podcasts before, and you're going to scoop him up for free. And if Cooper's not playing, I mean, Dak's got to pass it to somebody, and Gallup's a great wide receiver. So let's move on then. After Thielen, we have James Conner. James Conner was kind of our consensus. We were like, Dalvin Cook or James Conner. We have James Conner just one spot ahead of Dalvin Cook. Is going to get a lot of that passing attack. He's going to be the beneficiary for a lot of these targets that are gone. And I think that his offense and the amount of opportunity is just a little bit better than Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook could have a great season. They're both injury prone because they've been hurt last year. But I think that Dalvin Cook has a lot of competition when it comes to the wide receivers for targets and the goal line. So I think James
injuries, man. Besides the top 4 running backs, Tyler, low key, I'm looking at it right now. They all have major concerns, and I would rather take the safe route and take the wide receiver over all the running backs after that. Besides maybe Nick Chubb, I think Nick Chubb is pretty safe, except for when Kareem Hunt comes back. Obviously, they're going to use him a little bit. I don't think he's not going to take Nick Chubb's job, but it's just kind of concerning. I'll just rather go to safe route and take these receivers that do it year after year.
Yeah, and just a second on that, all the receivers up to Thielen, where Thielen's kind of that on the border, everyone after that for wide receivers has something that you're scared of. And then you get down...
getting a little shaky. Yeah, man, I agree.
So that gets into one of the shaky ones, Antonio Brown at our 207, and then actually Travis Kelce, the first tight end off the board, at 208. So Antonio Brown had the messed up feet. He also has had this helmet issue. Yeah. From head to toe, something's messed up in his head.
Got the messed up wires in his head. Something's going on, man.
I mean, he's still a great wide receiver. I think you
still take him. Yeah, I still take him over Todd Gurley, Damian Williams, Kerryon Johnson, Joe Mixon even. They got question marks.
Yep. So you're going for the targets here. We've never seen him on a new team, but we're going to have to take him as this is another name value thing. Big Ben could have made him a star, or he's just great on his own. And Derek Carr is not the worst quarterback. A lot of people like to bash on him just because of his seasons, but Derek Carr, give him a good weapon. I don't know. You could see a great season out of Antonio Brown with the targets because he's going to get probably peppered with targets, or
he'll get peppered.
Or you see him fall off the side of the earth. And
the only way he falls off, Tyler, is for I just feel the only way he falls off is if his mind's playing tricks on him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or he retires mid-season.
He's battling himself. That's the only way he falls off.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna be losing a lot of games. He's going to be used an insane amount. If his head's right, that's what it is.
Yeah, exactly. So Antonio Brown, he's our next wide receiver. He's ahead of T.Y. Hilton, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs. And then our next one here is going to be Travis Kelce, first tight end off the board. I have done a bunch of mocks where I've taken him in the second round. It does make my team look a little hairy when it gets down into that 5th, 6th round, and you're now questioning your wide receiver or running back 2, 3.
That's the only problem, dude. You hit it right on the head, and that's why I don't want to take tight ends. And I've mentioned that very early in when we started these podcasts is the tight ends. Like, I'm just not comfortable taking them in the top 3 rounds. I think it devalues your team at the end. I don't even like these top 3 tight ends. There's no guarantee they finish in the top 3 again. I don't think like tight ends come from out of nowhere, and these guys in the second tier could easily jump them. And I think the safest tight end, Kelce's pretty safe, but he also, he's got banged up in his career, and they're going to use him a lot. So the safest tight end is Kittle, I think. They don't have much there on offense. I know they have a lot of hype there, and all these guys could be good, Pettis and this and that. Kittle is the mainstay, and he's only 25 years old, so he doesn't have a whole bunch of miles on him. Like, that's the safest tight end of the elites.
And like we said, Kelce, he had a great season last year, but you remember who you were drafting at tight end last year? Gronk was going in the second round, sometimes first. Even when Gronk was Gronk and he was going in the first round, I never had a team where I drafted him. I don't draft those tight ends. I don't think ever. I've done a ton of mocks testing it, but every time I see my team, it's like, man, I wish I didn't go him and I went with an elite wide receiver. So,
out of all the mocks we've done, like we both, like you said, we've done so many mocks, and you're right. The ones you take Travis Kelce in, where he should be going according to the expert consensus, your team just doesn't feel right at the end or midway through.
And you have to remember too. There is a huge drop off when it comes to tight ends, but the amount of points that you're getting per game, it slowly starts coming closer and closer compared to that running back wide receiver. So Kelce did put up wide receiver 1 numbers last year.
Top 10 wide receiver for sure.
But I don't know if I'm drafting him there.
Again. You have to hope you're literally drafting him at please repeat last year, please, Travis. Like you're pleading him. You're pleading to him to repeat last year to get this pick in.
Yeah. So that's our kind of our take on Kelce and tight ends in general. If he dropped this far, I still like Kelce as almost like a hashtag wide receiver before these running backs. And I'm just going to close it out here. Our 209, 210, 211, 212. The 4 at the end of the second round goes Todd Gurley, Joe Mixon, Damian Williams, and Kerryon Johnson. That's 4 running backs that, if they fall to you at the end of the second, I'm here right now at the 203 or the 103 in this draft. I'm not too happy. I'm not too happy when it comes to which of these running backs I want. It's a hard decision. Todd Gurley, you just kind of hope that he gets 70-60% of what he had last year, and he still turns out to be a great running back. But
you just gotta hope that he gets the goal line carries. Todd Gurley.
Yeah, the touchdowns are going to be key.
You never know, man. They might use Brown down there.
And you're drafting 3 wide receivers from the same team in the first 5-6 rounds. At first 5 rounds, I think it is. So
yep, first 5. That's where they're going.
There's gonna be 2 that fall off, and it possibly could be Todd Gurley. He's one of his position, but he's got 2 good backup running backs behind him that could take some work away.
That they want to use Henderson 10 to 12 touches a game. That hurts his that hurts Gurley's value right there.
Yeah, and then Joe Mixon.
If that's true, you know what I mean. Like that's not. We didn't really take that into account where we drafted him though.
Yeah, and Joe Mixon, I've already spoken in different podcasts in the past. I'm not a huge fan of Joe Mixon, but when it comes to this kind of tier break, you have to go with the volume. Joe Mixon has been pretty consistent when it comes to injury. He's on a terrible team though, and
it's a terrible team. The offense is terrible. The O-line is might be the worst in the league. But what gets him here, what gets him drafted in this spot is it's the volume, and he's going to catch the ball.
Yeah, and you're kind of taking him. I think that you're taking him kind of in the similar take as Bell, and I know I've spoken about that in a different podcast where I think Bell and Mixon, how people always describe their run style, now they're kind of on similar teams. I mean, the Jets actually have a better team, wide receiver wise, but that's maybe why Le'Veon is about a half a round better than him on our list.
I see, like Joe Mixon. This is what I see happening to him, and tell me if you agree or disagree, Tyler.
So Joe Mixon, he's gonna produce fantasy points, but he's gonna be used so much because he's literally the only offensive weapon that they have. He's gonna be just getting destroyed game after game, and he's not gonna last. That's the thing. He's not gonna last the whole season.
And what do you think about Gio?
Production early on, and then I think he just gets worn out after that. He's literally the only guy that they have, in my opinion, that is worth paying attention to.
Yeah, especially on the team. There's nobody else that I would draft. There's one person, and that is Joe Mixon. So our last 2, Ryan, if you want to close it out here, we got Damian Williams and then Kerryon Johnson. What do you think
Damian Williams still needs to be drafted in the second round. You guys can't be so afraid of this Darwin Thompson guy. Yeah, he has potential, and he could take over the role if Williams goes down again, though. Then he'll have the chance.
It's Williams to lose.
Yeah, exactly. And they say that Carlos Hyde might not make the roster. That helps both the running backs, obviously, but Carlos Hyde he's not an NFL running back anymore. Dude is not good. So it's literally that move doesn't even matter. It helps Thompson though for an opportunity because he's going to spell Williams. But I feel like that move, if he gets cut, Damian Williams still is the man. He's the man until he goes down. If he does, and he's on a high-powered offense for one. You saw what he did last year in a small sample size. He filled right. He jumped in Kareem Hunt's shoes.
Yeah, and it might be just part of the offense, but that's what I was going to say.
It's the offense. That's what I'm saying. If Thompson gets in there, because Thompson's more talented than Williams. Like you can see it, and you can hear all about it and all these reports. He is the more talented running back. But they're not just going to start this guy over Williams. They're going to give Williams the first crack, and I don't see him losing it unless he goes down. Then Darwin Thompson will flash, and Williams will take a back seat.
Yeah, and also Thompson's playing right now. I'm pretty sure he's going to be in with the first string due to Williams probably still trying to get healthy. So it would be interesting to go back and watch. I'm going to make sure that I watch at least these first couple quarters and just kind of seeing the explosiveness. That's a game to
keep an eye on. Yeah, exactly, Tyler. It's nice to see. You want to see how he's doing, especially because you have him in Dynasty. I've been trying to pluck him off you for the last week. We've came close to a deal, but I feel you on that. You just want to hang on to him because he could vastly improve your team. Even though I'm giving you at this moment the safer and better player. I get it, so I'm not going to push it. If you want to do it, you do it. If not, you don't. So my trade to him was Jalen Samuels for Darwin Thompson, and he's kind of. It's still pending, so I know he's thinking about it, but. I understand where he's coming from.
Yeah, and you want to know what? Day of the draft, of course, you're going to do that deal. But now that more news comes out and we're watching more preseason games, it could be a double-edged sword for me, where you hang on. And we're gonna get to this question. We can actually answer it right here. But I'm kind of hanging on to Darwin Thompson, and double-edged sword is all of a sudden Williams is back in. He's healthy. He plays the whole season, and Darwin Thompson is a 6th-round pick that could
and
be
they keep Hyde.
disposable.
Like they still could keep Hyde.
Yeah.
And then Darwin Thompson he's nothing to start the year.
Or you have the Kamara type season where Williams just never gets back to snuff. Darwin Thompson gets in there and he takes over that Damian Williams role and explodes with it. And you have a guy that you could trade. I think he's a 21-year-old kid in a dynasty league that is going to be worth a lot. So you're really just going all in, and you're hoping that the cards fall right. So
the safe play would take is trade for Jalen Samuels. The try to boom would be keeping him. And at this point, I understand it because you have Melvin Gordon, and he is more than likely sitting half the season. So you're kind of just hoping that Thompson gets his opportunity because it would be a nice fill-in for Melvin Gordon.
Yeah. And our last guy here, Kerryon Johnson. I mean, we're actually calling for a regression on Kerryon Johnson. For me, on my rankings, he's actually going to be lower the more I think about it. But he's coming off of a good season, even though he was injured, and he did shine. But also, they're talking about using him less. Goal line carries is scary, but he does have that. They've
taken him out on third downs in that preseason game. Every third down, he didn't play a single third down. That is so disappointing. I'm a huge Lions fan, and Patricia and Bevel are already pissing me off. No, dude, it's so sad because this offense with another head coach that didn't want to milk the damn clock, this offense would be not a juggernaut, but damn near. They have all the weapons everywhere. Kerryon's not being utilized correctly. They're not going to use Hawkinson right away in the pass game. They're going to use him as a blocker because Darrell Bevel and Matt Patricia want to slow down the game and just run the ball. That's why they got Anderson. So Anderson is a guy you do want to draft later in your drafts because he's going to be a relevant player. He's going to be. C.J. Anderson will be relevant this year.
All right, well, that does it for the 2 rounds. Kerryon Johnson's at the end. And we're actually going to get through this mock draft pretty quick. We're not going to touch on too many players. And we're getting pretty far into the podcast, and we have a ton of questions afterwards. So I think that, Ryan, we're going to draft all the way until the 10th round.
Sure.
And then we're going to jump over to the questions. So if you want to start it up.
Let's start it up.
It gets to...
There you go.
And you got Patty Mahomes. And it gets to me. I'm looking at... So the teams that we have are they're kind of weird the way it started off because we gave our people our teams who we would have taken in a row.
That spot, so it gets interesting.
Okay, so I don't have a receiver. I have 2 running backs. I'm looking at Fournette, Freeman, Jones, and then T.Y. Cooper. You want to know, I'm not liking any of these wide receivers, but there also is a ton of picks before it gets to me. I might have to reach on a receiver, and that would be...
I wouldn't, though. I wouldn't. I mean, I understand it, but go with the 3-headed monster here.
Yeah, so I'm between...
Take a good running back.
God, these 3 are so good, too. Fournette, Freeman, and Jones. On my list, I'm probably going to have Fournette in the lead. I'm going to take Fournette.
Yep, I would take Fournette, Jones, Freeman there.
Yep, that's how mine is.
Good pick. It looks like I need a running back, and Aaron Jones fell into my lap here.
Man, that'd be perfect.
I have to. It's
in a 12-team league, and you go Odell, Thielen, Jones.
Aaron Jones, I like it.
Oh, man, Melvin Gordon was still on the board.
Yeah, I didn't. Now it looks like all the receivers took off. Now do I want to fill my wide receiver 3 slot here? My choices would be Brandon Cooks, Chris Godwin, or do I take Chris Carson, Marlon Mack as the running back? I think I want a piece of that 4th round in a 12-man. I want a piece of that Rams offense. I'm going to go Brandon Cooks here.
Okay. That's who I would have went to. I was looking at it. Okay, so Chris Godwin's on the top of the board. I definitely need a wide receiver. And after Chris Godwin, there's some scary stuff. You hit Ridley, and then it just goes downhill. Calvin Ridley is probably the end, or actually the beginning of the last tier for me before
the beginning of the end.
Yep. So I'm gonna take Chris Godwin. It's not my ideal situation.
No, Tyler, your team's set up well. I don't. You can say you don't like it. I do like it. You have McCaffrey, Mixon, Fournette, and your wide receiver 1 is Godwin, and that's fine.
Okay, so we're looking. Okay, so wide receiver 1 is Godwin, and now I'm looking at a pick of either Calvin Ridley or do I want to drop down to a DJ Moore, Mike Williams type pick? I mean, I could also go with Tevin Coleman or a tight end, but I think it's way too soon. I'm just gonna take Calvin Ridley.
Perfect. That's a good pick. I would have done that.
Just try to go for the upside. If Julio doesn't get those touchdowns, Ridley's gonna get a lot of yardage.
All right, I'm up. I have Aaron Jones only. I got my 3 receivers. I could take another receiver for the flex. I could take a tight end here. My running backs are hurting a little bit, so it sounds like
you think about the Miles Sanders.
Yeah, I do like that, but I don't want Miles Sanders as a starter. I see other guys here that could start over him.
Okay.
I'm going to go away from the running back position, I think, here, and go with.
What, you think a tight end, or you thinking?
Yeah. I like Ingram here.
He's picking between Evan Ingram and OJ Howard. We're the 2 tight ends on the board. So OJ goes by after you.
Miles Sanders fell to me. I think
that's perfect.
It's basically a force. I have to take him.
And you'll get a running back later too.
Yeah, I can take safe running backs later.
And then, he went Miles Sanders. And then let's see what drops to me. I was hoping
if Doug
Mike
Peterson
Williams.
is not dumb, Miles Sanders is starting week 3. And he is the bell cow.
Yeah, and it is scary, though, that Miles Sanders
go the other way, man.
Yeah. I mean,
you're right.
Running backs on the Eagles right now is a scary sight. And if you have one as a starter, you just got to hope. But Miles Sanders is really a beast.
He's really good.
I'm looking at Christian Kirk, Allen Robinson, Will Fuller, and Curtis Samuel, the 4 wide receivers. I really want to go wide receiver here before I go with Latavius Murray, kind of the top running back on the board. I already have 3 running backs, so I'm going to continue to... or do I take Hunter Henry because he is going to be a tier break in tight ends here soon.
It's...
You want to? Yeah, let's take Hunter Henry because I have a feeling one of those wide receivers will fall to me after the 4 picks. Oh. It's looking good. I'll take Allen Robinson. He was one of mine, definitely. And then Curtis Samuel was there also, but I think Allen Robinson being the one on the team, you kind of have to take that.
Especially with this cam foot injury. You know what I mean? That's like, ooh.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of worries you.
All right, here we are. Rashad Penny is going to get massive work. I know Carson's going to be the starter, but Rashad Penny's going to be the guy that's going to get all Mike Davis's work from last year, plus Rashad Penny's old workload. I see Carson and Penny both producing as a RB2 or close, so I'm gonna take Rashad Penny.
Okay, so Rashad Penny, then Josh Gordon
makes it to me.
There goes Henderson.
Awesome. So my pick here is going to be D.D. Westbrook.
Okay,
he'll be my flex, which is nice.
Yeah, my 2 were right there were D.D. or Geronimo.
Yep, I like Geronimo too. I'm with you on that.
So my pick, I could take the chance on Royce Freeman. He drops all the way to me at this pick, and Royce Freeman has an opportunity to take over. I'm also looking at some of the wide receivers. I'm going down the list to see what we have for later on. I'm only at 3 that I could possibly take the Sammy Watkins right now. Do I think that I think he's going to be similar to last year?
No, I think Sammy Watkins is better than last year. He's going so late. I think it's a guy that 8th round in a 12-man, I think it's a good pick, dude. You go that direction.
All right, we'll take Sammy Watkins, and we have 2 rounds left to pick, and then we're going to get into the questions. I'm looking at probably grabbing another running back here. Duke Johnson is just shot up the boards.
I'm calling timeout, Tyler. Andrew Luck is on the board in the 9th round in a 12-man league. Where are your thoughts on him now?
I mean, I'm super scared because in Dynasty I drafted him healthy.
I'm scared of Andrew Luck, and even right now, if it was me, I think I still let him go.
Yep, I dropped him. I picked up Jalen Samuels. I like the like we were talking about with Ryan. Jalen Samuels is going to get a lot of receiving work as a running back, and having him as his handcuff behind Connor, we've seen how much he could do, especially last year's playoffs. Samuels came through clutch at the end, so that'll do it for me. Who are you looking at?
I want Kyler Murray here.
Okay, and then you are still looking for a wide receiver. Oh no, you have 4. Okay,
I'm good. Yeah.
And so
running back right here, he fell to me. My running back here is Matt Breida.
Okay, yeah, Breida's a good sleeper. A lot of people talk about him.
It's just how my team is constructed right now. Matt Breida is my RB4, and he could potentially be my RB2. So I think, and my RBs are pretty slim. So he's my 4th one. I have Aaron Jones, Miles Sanders, Rashad Penny, and Matt Breida, and I kind of let the running backs fall. So I went kind of RB0 here, and it's working out.
And I did the exact opposite. I grabbed more running backs and wide receivers. And my last pick, I picked Lamar Jackson just to finish the roster off. Lamar Jackson is just going to be a very good floor for you. And what I would do is just kind of keep your eye on the waiver wire if you pick Lamar Jackson, because with the potential of him getting hurt, you definitely want to switch it out as quick as possible. In a 12-team league, if you draft Lamar Jackson, I feel like if other people are taking a 2-quarterback team, that you might have to join them as a 2-quarterback team just to get that handcuff behind him, because I don't see him being healthy the entire season.
It's just another like, you're throwing more darts. Like Lamar Jackson, I feel like he's pretty safe, but you never know. So yeah, later in the draft here, maybe with your last pick, take another quarterback.
And I mean, on everybody's free agency list, you're gonna have like Derek Carr. You're going to have the Sam Darnolds. There's just people that you'll be able to pick later on or get off of free agency that you could switch out very easily and get points off them. So we are done then for ours. Ryan, if you want to give your 10-round team and kind of how you drafted.
Let me hit the 10-round team. Quarterback, so right down the line, Kyler Murray, Aaron Jones, and then it's going to be Miles Sanders, Odell, Thielen, Cooks, Evan Ingram, and then my flex is D.D. Westbrook. And my bench, just a couple bench players, Rashad Penny, Matt Breida, to help my running backs.
And with these 12-man team or 12-man leagues,
I actually
it gets
like this
thin pretty quick.
Team, dude.
I know, I like yours too. It turned out real well.
I do actually like it, and that was a reach on Thielen, and it worked out.
Yeah, you draft him early, and this is with mocks. You draft him early, and you kind of see how it turns out. My team is Lamar Jackson running the QB. And then my running backs are going to be Christian McCaffrey, Joe Mixon, and Leonard Fournette. In tight end, it's going to be Hunter Henry. And then my wide receivers, wide receiver 1, Chris Godwin, Calvin Ridley, Allen Robinson, Sammy Watkins, and then Jalen Samuels is
and you have Fournette in your flex. Your team's very good too.
Yeah,
and you went running backs, I went receivers, and it both ended up pretty well. Like your team is deep through your flex. I really like it.
Yeah, actually,
your receivers obviously are a little bit scary, but I mean, you went 3 straight running backs, so your receivers, you have Godwin and Ridley. That's pretty good. Ridley, I think, does better than he did last year, and Chris Godwin, obviously, everyone's talking about this guy. I don't see how he fails.
No, I don't see it either, unless injury. But I think he gets peppered with targets,
and he's playing out of the slot, dude. So
they're going to be good. They're going to be one of the top one of the top offenses, too, for passing attempts. And you pretty much can guarantee it going into the season. No running back is helping out. Ronald Jones, I don't even think is going to be a starter at the start of week 1, just because of the news coming out with Rojo. So, all right, well, that does it for our mock draft. We're going to kind of cruise through these questions. We'll answer every single one, but we are getting a little bit later into the podcast. So we'll switch over. We got the Q&A, the quick Q&A. First question on the board is going to be rank these 4 wide receivers. You have Odell Beckham, Tyreek Hill, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Michael Thomas. And just go ahead. I think we had the same exact rank. Looking at our rankings also on our draft, it kind of goes in line with what we're talking about.
I just feel Thomas and Odell can just be flip-flop. Like, it doesn't really matter right there, but the upside is OBJ. So, and he's my favorite player. So I'll go OBJ there. Thomas, Juju, Hill. What do you have?
Okay, so looking at it drafting-wise, I might take Michael Thomas. So it would go Odell, Michael Thomas, Juju, Hill. Is that what you said?
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what I have. So, yeah, we're on board with that.
I might switch Odell and Michael Thomas, but I like the upside
of... Like, you can't go wrong with the first 2, but Juju, Hill are in the right order.
Yep, and then before them 4 is going to be your Hopkins, Adams, and Julio Jones. All right, and then that'll move on to our next question. Who are you taking at the 6th overall pick? And that's if the 5 running backs are gone, with Zeke, Kamara, CMC, Barkley, and DJ. And if you look back at our last draft, we're not taking DJ or Zeke in our top 6. So it's pretty easy answer. It goes hand in hand with the next couple of questions that come up. But, I mean, Ryan, you got the 6th pick in the draft coming Saturday. I mean, who's on your mind? Who are you taking?
My number 1 receiver, which I said can go either way here. Yours is Hopkins, mine is Adams. I'm taking Devontae Adams right there. I just
Okay.
feel like I said, if you pick Hopkins, which I feel like you're gonna do, it's not wrong.
I feel like if this is what happens in your draft and you're at the 6th pick and all those running backs are gone, they did you a favor by giving you that option of Hopkins or Adams, because it's almost a no-brainer to take one of those two. And you're just going for whatever one you like best. We've given our opinions last podcast. Even we kind of broke them down. Pick who you like, but those are the two picks that are a no-brainer, and they actually helped you out. So. Next question. We're going to clump these two together. Who would you pick at the 9 and 10? So we have 9 and 10. Let's say that Bell, Connor, let's see here. Julio, Odell, Michael Thomas, they're all there. And Ryan, if you want to take this one, let me know what you think. 9 and 10. You're at that spot in our draft on Saturday.
Yep. So Julio is there at the 9.
It's an auto.
I'm taking him. It's an auto. And then the 10 spot, which goes back to the first question, it's Odell or Thomas. And whatever one you want, I would go Odell, but Thomas is not the wrong pick.
No, and just think, if you're in a 10-team league, then you also can double up with one of those great wide receivers. Or if you're in a 12-person
situation,
league,
Tyler, the 10-man, if that's the situation, Thomas and Odell are both on my team.
And that's just scary.
That would be ideal.
Okay, so then that gets through that
What
question.
were you saying about the 12-man, though? You were on to something about the 12-man.
Well, the 12-man, I feel like those guys would be gone, and you get into a situation like we just had. You had the 9th pick, and you went Thielen. And
Yep. Okay. Well, Mike Evans may be there to team up with a Thomas or an Odell.
Yep.
Which would be nice.
That'd be nasty.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, next question. And we answered this before, but are you going Zeke or Barkley? Let's say Zeke signs as the 101.
This question is asked a lot, man. And
it is.
The thing, Barkley, I think Barkley's a better running back, but fantasy-wise, if Zeke's playing, you take him. He's just on a better team. Barkley is going to be keyed in on, and yes, his talent should poke through, and he's going to produce. I think worst-case scenario, Barkley is the 8th overall running back. I know that's crazy, but that's worst-case scenario, though. Zeke, if he signed, you take Zeke number 1.
Yeah, and Zeke, worst case scenario, is still top 4. I don't think. I'm trying to think of a worst case scenario where he reaches that 8 where Barkley's reaching.
No, I don't think he does.
Maybe 6, but I don't see him even on his worst. Yeah.
Yep.
So we would both take Zeke as the 101. He's getting more in the passing game. I mean, he was so close to Kamara when it came to receiving. And then also, Barkley, if you've listened to a lot of other podcasts and pros out there, they have Barkley actually a lot lower than you would think. Ryan was just telling me he listens to a guy, he had him, at 6 or 8?
James Cole was on a podcast, and he had Barkley at 7. And people probably laughed. Like, I just chuckled right there. But deep down, I like
possibility.
That. He's an RB0 guy, and he backs it up with great takes.
And I mean,
I'm with him on that. RB0 is what I love to do. I implement the strategy year after year, and it is giving me success.
And Barkley had a great season last year, but going into this next season, nothing has really changed. It's actually gotten worse with Odell being gone.
It's situation based. That's why he has him there. It's strictly situation based. The guy is the best running back in the league, but the situation is not even average. I feel it's below average. And
I mean, it's possible that he drops down into a girly season of a few years ago, and that's the scary part. That's like Ryan's talking about, where he has actually that low, where Zeke doesn't. So, but if Zeke's not signed, you have to go Barkley
I'll take Barkley.
You don't want to lose any games.
I'll take Barkley or Kamara at that point. You know what I mean?
Too.
I would still take Barkley, but I'm a huge wide receiver guy, and everyone wants you to take these top 4 running backs. And honestly, if I was in the top 4, the late 4, like 3-4, I would be contemplating.
Yeah, if it was like CMC
crazy.
Or Hopkins or
Yes,
Adams.
Because it's just because the workload. CMC's got a lot of workload last year. These running backs are just getting pounded into the ground. How long do they last? Do I want 5 games, 6 games of dominant performances? I'd rather just take the safe bets, dude. Like the Hopkins, the Adams, the Hopkins going for 100+ receptions, 1,500 yards, double-digit touchdowns that you can count on every year. Like that's literally why I think I do it. It's just the safe route.
Yeah. Okay, well, that answers that one. And then, Ryan, give me your thoughts when it comes to drafting David Johnson this year. We have him still in the first round, but he is behind a lot of wide receivers. What is your take when it comes to David Johnson? He's not making it to you in the
right. Yeah, I mean, so if he fell to me at 10 in our league, I think I would just be forced to take him. I don't want to, but I just feel like, okay, at 10, I'll do it. But my real answer to that, without me being like crazy biased, I feel between 6 and 12 if he's there. I mean, the fantasy industry focuses on running backs. They want you to take all these running backs. So if he falls between 6 and 12, I think you're safe to take him.
Yeah, and I mean everyone's polling for a great season out of David Johnson last year. I mean, even though he disappointed a lot of people, I think he still was top 12,
dude. Yeah, he was still. I'm pretty sure he was top 12, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, so I mean, you still got that overall season from him, but drafting him in the first round, and that's the season you're going off of, it does make it a little bit difficult, and that's why I would take a wide receiver over him unless he fell. To me, in the early second round is where I'm taking him. So, David Johnson, you're just hoping, you know that he had that great season in him. You're hoping for that offense to be better. And I guess we'll see as the preseason week 3 comes around, how he looks and how the team looks. I definitely want to watch Kyler in the offensive line again. So, moving on to, we have 2 questions left here. We're going to make it... Darwin Thompson, if you had him right now, there's a lot of hype going around with him. I have him in our dynasty, like we were talking about our trade. If you had him right now, what would you trade him for in a dynasty league?
I love running backs like this. Like I found Kamara a couple years ago. It's a good comparison and possibly situation. So I might be a little biased on this. That's why I'm attempting to get him from Tyler. And there's nothing wrong with thinking a different direction here. But if I had Darwin Thompson, just the upside alone of what he can bring, because he's on that offense and he's pretty talented, I would want a first round pick. It might be outlandish, but I'm moving him for a first round pick. I'll do that. Next year's rookie draft class is stacked. They're going to blow Darwin Thompson out of the water in talent. So I'll take one of those all day if someone was willing to give me them. The other part of that deal, if someone offers you a high upside RB2 right now,
yeah.
Let's say they offer you like,
give me a name. Give me a name here.
Let's say like Dalvin Cook or something like that.
What about a Sony Michel?
Sony Michel. See, I probably would, and yeah, I would do that. I would take Sony Michel. Definitely.
Okay.
He's a guaranteed guy.
Let's push it up a little bit more.
What
if someone
offered Michel in the Dynasty League, man?
Did you? Oh yeah, right, you did.
Did you see that trade?
Yeah, I saw it.
It was a three-way deal. I actually made out. I don't know if I made out like a bandit, but I feel like I did well. I mean, I can break it down quick. I'm pretty sure the trade ended up being I traded Derrick Henry. It was a 3-way deal, so I sent out Derrick Henry, Josh Gordon, and Mark Ingram. This is Dynasty.
A bunch of question marks.
Yeah, I received Sony Michel, a young, talented running back, a first-round pick next year, a second-round pick this year, and a third-round pick this year. So, I mean, I feel like I made out pretty well. Derrick Henry, he's scary to me, man. He just is. He doesn't catch the ball. He doesn't fit my style on my team. So I shipped him out, and I'll take not this year's running back class, but next year I'm sure I can get someone to replace him.
Yeah, and when I looked at that, I was like, oh, man.
I got the best player in the trade, and I got picks, so I feel like I did well.
Yeah, and that's actually an excellent segue to our last question, and it's pretty generic, but it says, is there a way to trade draft picks before the draft? And I'm also going to add in during the draft. So before and during the draft. I know that we were breaking it down before we even came on the podcast, but, I mean, for us, how long have we been doing trading draft picks? Since we started live, or did we...
In person, yes, because it was impossible when we used to do it on Yahoo. Sleeper wasn't around 4 years ago, so...
How about you talk about live in person, and then I'll talk about the Sleeper strategy.
The live in person?
Yeah, tell me how we do it.
Yeah, we live in person is the best because you can, like you said, you can trade the draft picks right there in person and it's done, and then you can enter the rosters later. Now, if you trade, like, say you were to complicate it on Yahoo and you wanted to trade picks, you would be like, oh, so and so is on the clock, but they're drafting for so and so, and that would just get way too confusing.
Yeah, and when it comes to the sleeper makes it a lot easier. That's how we did it for our dynasty.
That's how we did. Yep.
Trading draft picks, depending on like values, we can get into that another time for values of draft picks, but trading in general is pretty easy because you can mark it off on the board in sleeper, and then when you're done in sleeper and everyone has picked where they were supposed to pick, then you just transfer it straight over to whatever league you're doing it in. And what we do is we went from sleeper to Yahoo, and then we just manually took that draft board and where people were picking and switch it over to Yahoo. So it does make it pretty hard when it comes to talking to everybody over phone or over the chat, just saying, hey, so-and-so is picking because they made the trade. And then you have to keep it in your mind, or you have to write a note down so you don't forget about who's drafting where, just to get everyone's roster straight. But when you're in person, it is so easy to do it on the fly, and then during the draft that you have their name up there, you get a marker, and I think that's what we do. We do a permanent marker or stickers. And then
you put your name's a permanent marker, and then we use sticky notes if someone trades for the pick, and we put their name over that guy so we know it's their player.
So that's what it was. Yeah.
But another thing I wanted to get to with this question here is, so say you're doing sleeper's the closest to an on or like a live in person draft as you'll get besides live in person, because how the draft board works and how easy it is to trade picks and stuff like that and how it keeps track. So that's great. But Yahoo, you just can't do it on Yahoo. You can't do it on ESPN. So besides, like, if your league, basically what I'm getting to here is if your league wants to trade draft picks, or if you're interested in it and see how it goes and you can't get together as an in-person draft, do it on Sleeper.
Yeah, exactly. And it's going to be a little more difficult, but I think that it adds a lot. It's more fun to have that trading draft picks because it just adds another dimension to the league and to the draft. And ever since we've been doing it, it just adds that excitement of talking to the other teams. Some people are thinking they're getting ripped off, and you kind of have to think about the values of trading
That's
your
another
draft
thing
picks.
we had to learn, with the draft picks, what it is. The first year, it might get a little crazy, and that's what happens, though. It's your first year live in person trading picks, so you learn from that. You want to value afterwards.
And you want to constantly just evolve your fantasy, because when you first get in at the basics of like standard league or touchdown only, and you slowly start getting to half, full PPR, then you get into like double QBs, you get into auction
10-man,
drafts.
12-man, moving to 14, 16-man leagues. It's all challenging, and the more you know, the better you'll be.
And then trading draft picks is just another addition, and then you get into Dynasty. So, I mean, there's levels, but if you think you're ready to trade draft picks, it does add. And you want to be with people that know what they're doing, too, with draft picks. It can get a little sketchy if, like, someone, like a family league or something, and someone doesn't know the value of their pick, and then it could kind of screw up the draft as well. So you really want to get a feel for the room, and draft picks trading is awesome. We have a ton of fun doing it. So
maybe come up with a value system, like if someone wants your first round pick, and this is redraft. We're not talking dynasty here. This is redraft. If someone wants picks, like, come together as a group and come up with a value system on what each pick is worth, on like what you expect as a fair offer. So someone doesn't go, I'll give you my second, third, and fourth for your first. Like, that's insane. You accept that 20 times out of 20 times. It's just, you do that every time. So you kind of want to avoid that because it could really mess up the league. But that's why coming together and maybe coming up with a system is a good idea. We didn't do that. We kind of went on the fly and it worked out, and we kind of developed a system from that. So that's where we're at now.
And everyone learns the ways. And so that'll do it. I hope we answered that last question, all the questions, give you a little insight into our mindset for when it comes to the first couple of rounds and then the mock draft that we did. Go back, listen. We have a couple more shows that are very relevant to the drafts coming up. And then next week, if you still don't draft until next weekend, we're going to have 2 more episodes. Right now they come up every Wednesday and Friday. We're going to get this one out tomorrow on Friday, and I'm going to get back to watching some football. So make sure you listen in, and then this upcoming Saturday, go into the show notes. You're going to see my Twitch. It's going to be a live stream. It's BowTYz, BowTYz. I'm going to be streaming ours. I'm not sure how many people we're going to get to come in and watch us, but it's just going to be a great time. It's going to be funny. I'm going to try to reach out to as many people as I can to see if they want to watch it. We always have a great time, and it can be very entertaining. We might have to watch a couple people, but so yeah, make sure you're following. Make sure you're following, subscribing, commenting. If you're listening to us right now and you made it this far, please go in and leave a 5-star or any star, a comment. It's going to help us out. It only has the 1 in there right now. And then also we put these on YouTube. Eventually we want to get video, and just go into the show notes. Everything's down there. Click on whatever you want to, any way you want to listen to us. And we will definitely see you for questions on the live chat Saturday, or we'll catch you back here Wednesday. Everyone, good luck in your drafts. I know that me and Ryan are super excited. I mean, that's why this podcast and the last one went very long, is because we're very passionate about this week and the entire season. So good luck. Make sure that you are going off of our drafting, because it's going to win you a championship. And remember, like everyone says, you don't win your championship at the draft, but you definitely set a foundation for the future. So goodbye. Good luck.